Whether you're leading for the first time, leading through change, or learning to lead all over again, this space is for you. No fluff, no gimmicks, just real talk from those who've led through challenges, adapted under pressure, and thrived in the face of change. Welcome to Command to Corporate, where leadership isn't just taught, it's lived. Let's get to work. Leadership. We're your hosts, LP and T. And again, episode 2, we'll be talking about our earliest memories of leadership. And so we're going to jump right into it. So, first question we'll talk about is what is your earliest memory of taking on a leadership role?
So before we get started, just a little disclaimer. I have a horrible memory.
All right.
So it's going to be a struggle. Um, but like, honestly, it's that's a tough question.
Let me jump in though, because
Yeah.
I thought about this, and the earliest somewhat memory, well, it's a clear memory.
Mhm.
The earliest, I guess, of somewhat of leadership when I was in the third grade,
Mm,
and maybe because of the activity, I remember it.
yeah.
So it was a Washington Street School, East Orange, New Jersey. Shout out to Washington Street School. So at the time in third grade, don't you know they had students, third grade, be conflict managers on the playground during recess?
Really?
Yes. And so I actually volunteered. They gave us, if I remember correctly, like little vests, and we had little spiral notepads. And I don't know if they had prompts on it or what, but and we were just standing around, like almost
Yeah.
like security. And
See, I
so,
think I think that's what they teachers do for troublemakers. They're like, oh, we gave them this possibility.
maybe that was it. I got in trouble. And I remember if there was a conflict, you come up and you think about it, wherever you see a security guard, a vest,
Yeah.
police, you automatically stop. So we roll up and I'm like, hey, break it up. So they see the vest and they step back. And I'm like, okay, what happened? What's your name? And literally just trying to de-escalate the situation,
Mm,
get everybody calmed down, let's shake hands, hug it out, and go back to playing. And this was in third grade. And I think
impressive.
either I got in trouble and I had to do it, you're right, or I volunteered. But that was the earliest memory I have of taking on some sort of, if you want to call that leadership role. That was the first time,
Third grade. That's impressive.
third grade.
I mean, third grade. I don't remember much from third grade, to be honest with you. I think I was actually third grade. I um, I was trying to learn English, so I used to have
Oh,
English as a second language.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, so not much talking or leading in that,
In that space at that time.
But it's, like I said, it's a tough one, and I started thinking about it. It's like I honestly don't have like that far of a memory, but then it kind
Well,
of
what about then a
well,
teacher or coach or somebody?
nah. So actually, I thought about this, and I thought this was interesting.
Hmm.
Um, I always looked up to my dad,
Okay.
and I think my dad was my first experience of or what I think good leadership is. And I guess we never think about parents that way necessarily, and I didn't
Hmm.
maybe. But until now, I started thinking back, and I was like, oh, the family looked up to my dad, for guidance, for reassurance, for security. We knew our dad had our best interest in mind.
Hmm.
He was the provider, the protector, and
Yeah.
so it was. I think that's probably the earliest experience of leadership without even knowing it.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
and so and like I said, I'm kind of maybe the more we talk about this, the more I'm starting to realize I'm not really a natural born leader necessarily. um, but I'm more of I learned leadership along the
Mm.
way. And so I've learned a lot from my dad. And my dad did also a good job of like mentoring and teaching and just being a good parent. And I
Oh,
think
wow.
that
That's
was
really good.
probably my first experience of leadership. So I was a young kid. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think if I remember, like, in those early years, other things that might have. influenced me because following up to our earliest memories,
Mhm.
for you, the way you describe it, it's almost like not knowing it, almost accidental. Like it's happening around you, but you're not like it's
Right.
not an intentional thing.
Right.
Whereas my little experience, I was put there, maybe it was accidental, I don't remember, or it was intentional and volunteered. But I would you say that
But you owned it and you ran with
you
that.
true,
And
true.
so you had a natural skill. You had like an instinct of like, oh, this is my position, this is what I'm going to do. And you acted on that. I think, and maybe we'll get to it eventually, when I was put in positions, it did not come natural to me, that's for sure. We'll
So
talk
what type of so then with that, what type of positions, like when you say that, what type of positions were you put in?
So I played varsity, sports in high school. For the
Okay.
last 3 years, I was on varsity sports. So it was like soccer, wrestling, track and field. And I
A
remember
quick
being,
question, were those sports you wanted to join, or did your parents encourage you, or like, no, I want to do this?
the reason why I joined all these sports is because I was a really fat kid.
Really? Oh,
Man, high school years were brutal freshman year. I was the
I would have
fat
to say I
kid.
was a little chunky too,
Yeah.
but I wasn't fat, but I had a little bit of
Oh, I
weight on
was fat. Um, yeah, so I've decided it's like, oh, I'm gonna do something about it, and so I
That's
started
good.
joining the sports and stuff like. So my freshman year, I was just running, working out, and then I got on teams. Eventually, the last 3 years, and so senior year, for example, what they try to do, good coaches, not I mean all coaches generally, maybe not all, but they try to rotate the captain position for like a couple of weeks at a time for the seniors. So
Mm.
that way, seniors now have the experience of being a captain, and you're officially a team captain, and so you get the opportunity to put that on your kind of college application or whatever, and it goes
Oh,
on your transcript. So it's a really good program because it's like, oh, let's put seniors in position. Let's see how they behave or they lead, and then hey, you get to put it on your transcript.
and they actually
So.
evaluate you on that?
Um,
Do they, or they just this is just like, hey, like,
I
because
don't
if they're
remember being
rotating,
evaluated, but
mm,
I remember being coached and like, hey, you need to, make sure they're doing this. You need to make sure they're doing that. And that's kind of what it goes. That's kind of it goes back to what I was saying. Yeah, I was put in that position, and then all I could think of was like, oh my god, I'm in a team captain position, and like these guys are looking up to me, and like I don't know what to do, and the only thing I could do is like think about like what I saw other team captains do.
oh, okay.
So it goes back to I'm a I learned how to be a leader, maybe good or bad, but it was all based on what I saw other team captains do.
And what type of what would you say, like some of the styles, if you could remember, like what was their approaches to that leadership? Was it of like a participative or more authoritative? Like how did you see that playing out?
So like what really motivated me, um, seeing at that time, I thought it was amazing in leadership when people are motivating the team. If you have the
Mm.
ability to motivate the team and push them, whether it's the last quarter or last 5 minutes or last minute of a wrestling match, and you're able to get that team motivated, and it's like that's the most incredible thing I think. And this is something I've struggled with and I've always had problems with. And it's admittedly not my strong suit. But that's
Mm.
why maybe I admire it in other people so much, with the ability to motivate others and to rally them, around a cause,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
pretty important as a leader. That's
yeah, for
pretty good
sure.
leadership skill to have. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was
definitely.
just, I was faking it, and because I was just thinking, like, what did this guy do? And it does not come off genuine. I mean, I reflecting back at it now, it's not genuine. You kind of
Oh,
see that I'm just mimicking. I'm just a parrot. At that point,
oh,
and you could kind of see that. Like leaders that try too hard or people that try too
oh
hard.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you
I
can
def
see that, and I think
yeah.
that was. that was my issue.
But the coaches, did they see the potential in you? Did they say, do you remember them saying anything like that? Or like, hey, yeah, you would be, or anything like that?
Yeah, no.
Too far back?
No, I don't think they saw any potential.
Yeah, see, I didn't play. I think when I was in high school, I took a small stint at playing at wrestling
Yeah.
as freshman year. Did it for
Mm.
just a short period. It wasn't for me. And then I actually did drama. I
Really?
think maybe all 4 years of high school, I was in the drama guild, and
Okay.
so doing acting. And the only reason at the time I joined, I remember this guy came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to join the drama guild?" And I'm like, and I went to a all boys uh, Catholic high school. Shout
Mm.
out to St. Benedict's Prep in North New Jersey, and all boys. And so he came up to me and said, "Hey, you want to join the drama guild?" I'm like, "Man, no." He was like, "Hey, we have girls here." I'm like, "I'm in."
Say less.
And I joined. And so, but it turned out to be a good experience to go through it. And we actually would have to build our own sets and
Mm.
tear them down. I mean, we're everything. We had our director, of course, but we were doing everything. Students were doing the lighting and all. And so that was my, I guess, first real stint working in a team environment. I don't know that I, at the time, took on any real leaderships, position,
Mhm.
because and though we may have been a lot of us in the same class, or maybe a class ahead of us, um, I didn't really notice at the time anything. I do remember at a certain point, because some people were naturally talented, did a great job,
Sure.
and they always got the leadership roles, or the lead
The lead
roles,
role,
not
yeah.
the lead roles. And so I remember one time vocalizing to my peers, like, hey, I don't want that. Like, I'm tired of it. I would like an opportunity to do that, but it's still based on talent. So it's not like I'm just going to be given this role just because. But I do remember we had tryouts for a musical at one
Mm.
point, and we had to sing, and I actually did get the lead role for that. But again, that's just based on, you know the singing, and how at the time the drama director was like, okay, this your voice plays well for this character, and I just happened to get a lead. But I think that was the first time that I probably did something like that. I think when I Go ahead, what were you going to say?
So I think that's interesting. Like I think about lead roles,
Hmm.
and I think naturally those are leadership positions in many ways. It's like
Yeah,
because
yeah,
people are keying off of you.
yeah,
Everything's based on like what you say and what you do. And so in that sense, it's like there's a lot of responsibility on you. To deliver the lines, to have good timing, and then people are just gonna like have to follow.
yeah,
And if people did not trust you, I'm sure we probably would have heard it.
yeah,
Or if you messed it up, I'm sure you would have heard it, especially around that age.
yeah. And
But
when you say timing and messed up, I remember one time I played I don't remember the play, but I played a pimp, and I actually had a monologue, and I'm sitting there talking to the crowd, and it's dead silence. I mean, they're like deep into what I'm saying, and I'm sitting there, and then all of a sudden, my mind goes blank. And I put my head down. I have on a hat, like a fedora. I have on a trench coat, I think. And I
yeah.
put my head down. And to me, it felt like an eternity that I was pausing. And then finally, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? And then it came back to me, and I said the line, and then it went dark, or the curtains closed. So then
Oh,
after the fact, when the drama director gave feedback, she's like, Larry, that pause, that was great. Do it again. I was like, I actually forgot my line. I didn't remember. But she was like, it was great because everyone was just hanging, waiting for me to say the next line. And so I was like, wow,
It was pretty
A
good, but
pimp? I'm still stuck on pimp.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a pimp.
Yeah, this is high school.
Yeah, this is high school. Yeah,
Well,
we
it's
did some.
Jersey, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah. We did some pretty good plays, and the one thing that I think amazed me is that the turnout,
yeah.
because it would just be so many students and friends and family come out to support it, which,
Mm,
sometimes, when you see the football games, basketball games,
true.
lots of people, but then when you think of drama, maybe not, but it was used to be a full house of people coming. If I invited people, they came. It was pretty good, to turn out that way.
That's interesting. So, I guess to be a good leader, do you think you have to be a good public speaker?
I would, I think it, I think so. I would just say plain
Yeah.
and simple, I think so. Because,
Yeah, I think so too.
when you think about, like, I got feedback probably last year from
Mm.
a former colleague saying that, hey, um, that I talk, he was referring to me to someone else that, hey, I command the room.
Oh,
When I
yeah,
speak, you command the room. And I was actually just talking to my wife about this yesterday.
yeah.
I was out at the store and we were talking about it, her workspace,
Hmm.
and saying, well, what does it mean to command the room?
It's
And
presence,
yeah, presence,
army quality.
confidence, where if you're gonna talk, whether right or wrong, people are
Yeah,
listening, and they're gonna quiet down. They're gonna go, they almost like get behind you, that
yeah,
support. Um, because when, she's talking about in her space, like executive presence and,
yeah,
just really, being out there, putting yourself out there, because that's what you have to do ultimately is put yourself out there. And that made me think about like another early memory. I was in high school, but one of my first jobs, I worked at a newspaper.
mm-hmm.
And I don't remember who trained me up on the job, but I worked in the editorial department of a newspaper.
Okay.
A newspaper is no longer in business in Jersey, but so I was there with the reporters and the editors, and actually one of the sports reporters, he was, or editor, I'm not sure, I don't remember, but he was actually on HBO Sports. He's actually featured in one of those talking about, I think, boxing at the time.
Okay.
But I remember training as a teen adults to do jobs.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, because I worked at the front desk. So not only did I, so my job was taking reporters and would actually call me up, and they would say their name, and they would basically, I forget what word they would say, but it's basically prepared a copy. That's basically what it was,
Okay.
in the sense of the military. And they would give me like their intro paragraph
Uh-huh.
of their story that's going into the newspaper that's going to be printed the next day. So they call me, they'd say, Larry, this is, for example, they say, Larry, this is T, sports or business, whatever, whatever that code was, prepare the
Mm.
copy, and I go. And then they just start, and I'm just typing away. And they go,
Wow.
you got it? And I'm like, yes, I got it. And they were like, okay. And then I would have to arrange these sections the way it's going to print in the newspaper. So it'd be headline stories, and then break
Mm.
it down by section and have it all ready. And then by 5 o'clock, the editor would be yelling, Larry, you got that for me? You got it for me? And I'm like, I'm almost done. I might be taking one on the phone, like still arranging them. And however I arranged it, that is the way it was going to come out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's impressive. Like, so you've had a lot of leadership positions as a young man.
And I wouldn't even think of it
Mm.
that way
Right.
at the time.
Mm.
Reflecting back on it, because I remember when I worked at that front desk, I had two ladies, one that I'm at least connected with on Facebook.
Mhm.
I mean, I was a teen and they were in their early 30s, and I'm teaching them how to do the front desk job. And
Yeah.
so it was just like, hey, here's how you do it. This is what you do. And they were just shadowing me. And at the time, I didn't think about it, but I'm like teaching them how to perform in their role.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So you are like a naturally born leader, man. You just have that instinct and that desire. I mean, like I think back. I mean, I've never had jobs like that, but I
Mhm.
wonder if maybe I shied away from them as well. You know, like
Mm.
I don't have that natural ability, that instinct to lead, so it's not a comfortable zone for me. And so
Uh,
maybe you kind of just shy away from it, like, oh no, I don't want to be in that position, or I don't want that job. I mean, like my jobs in high school were like, I was a caddy for several summers.
oh wow.
Yeah, so I was just like, carry the bags, what do you want? Here's a putter, here's a drive.
Great shot.
Yeah. I was a cheerleader essentially. And I was like stocking the fridge, of
Mm,
like beer and soft drinks of a like a bodega.
yeah.
And yeah, so reflecting back, I probably shied away from a lot of lead type positions or leadership positions. I mean, I did I consciously know? I don't know, but I mean, if I don't have that instinct, it's not in me, then it's probably just, yeah, wasn't interested in those positions.
So that reminds me of a position, my first
Mm.
job before that. So I got both jobs from my mother, who worked. She worked at that newspaper when I did work there, but one of their suppliers was a
Mhm.
paper company, and she was able to get me a job at the paper company.
Mm.
And so that was probably the first job I remember, and I was just in a file room. So I went into the first time I show up. It's two ladies at a desk, and it's just files everywhere. And it's so bad, like file cabinets everywhere.
Yeah.
So it went long, one down long, one wall, down another, or maybe it was just down one long, but it was just a mess. All the drawers are pulled out, they're just all messed up.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like that everywhere. So I said, hey, do you mind if I straighten this up?
Hmm.
They're like, knock yourself out. It's probably going to take you forever. And don't you know, every day I came in there and they were in alphabetical order, and I went drawer through drawer and got it to where everything was organized and every drawer shut. But once I did that, it just made it was nice and boring at the same time, because then you weren't scrambling to find anything.
Mm.
So then we spent so much time just sitting there, because it was like you could just easily find it. So instead of like, give me 30 minutes, it was like, here you go.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that was it. And it was just like, but I guess at the time, taking that initiative. And
Yeah.
then fast forwarding, when I was training the two ladies,
Hmm.
I'm in high school, I'm making, minimum wage, whatever it was, but they were coming in making more than me, and I was training them. And so I felt like, hey, I need to make more money. And I remember there was this editor, and he was pretty tough. People were, I would hear him yelling at other editors, yelling at reporters. It was like something out of the movies, and like from that was in the 90s, early 90s, but it reminds you of back in the day, how there's no holds barred. And I remember going to him and saying, like, hey, pleading my case, and said, I want $1 more. For me, $1 was good, but I went in there and he's like, okay, I'll give it to you.
Really?
Yeah, he gave it to me, because it was still less than the ladies, because
Yeah.
they're adults, but he at
But
least gave it to me.
I mean, the easiest thing to say no to a kid,
Yeah.
But I guess he really saw the potential and then like the guts it takes. I guess like it really does
Yeah.
to ask for more money as a kid. Like you're really in no position at that point, or maybe you
No.
just knew. Maybe you just knew, like I have that confidence. That confidence. I'm going to ask.
I guess trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
And even when I came towards the end of high school, and again, I actually had two stories in the newspaper.
Mm.
I remember, here's another instance where um, they gave me an opportunity to write stories in the paper. So they basically fed my story. They're like, hey, here you go. So it was on me as a kid, teenager, to coordinate with the photographer, could coordinate with the person that's being interviewed. So literally over the phone, you don't know what my age is. I'm just like, hey, and they're like, hey, this is Bob. I'm at for example, name Bob, I'm at so and so's residence, and I'm like, okay, yeah, just get a shot, maybe of whatever, and they're like, okay, and they're doing it. And then I actually did not interview the person face to face, but over the phone, and
Yeah.
then sent the photographer out to uh, take the photo. But I remember collaborating with someone, and though we were supposed to work on the story together,
Mm.
they did not participate. So it was like I was doing all the work, and it was just like, oh, you got it. I'm busy, this and that. But then at the end, tried to take credit.
Like, where's my name?
Yeah, and I went to the editor and I was like, hey, I'm gonna tell you straight up, they did not contribute at all. And don't you know they left their name off?
Good.
And they were pissed. And I'm like, well, you should have done work. Keeping it real. Should have
That
done
takes
work.
guts, man. Let's try and do the right thing. Man, New Jersey, who knew?
Yeah. Yeah.
Private or public school?
So when I was in public up until junior high school. And then I went to private junior high school and Catholic high school, though I wasn't Catholic, but did go to because it was one of the best, if not the best, prep schools. And so, but in that experience,
Mm.
though, tying it back to acting, and when I joined the Drama Guild,
Mhm.
we actually did a school. We did the school had very unique school trips, and I actually got to take a school trip to Nigeria when I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah, so the drama team, it was about maybe about maybe about 8 of us to include the drama, and it was due to one of our teachers being from Nigeria, and we organized it, and we went and we spent 2 weeks in Nigeria, in Lagos, Nigeria,
Wow.
with him and his family. So we actually stayed, and he was, we everyone teased him in the school, short, Nigerian guy, quiet. But when we went to Nigeria, Mr. Ogu, shout out to him, he was a big deal over there. Like it
Nice.
was like he was a big deal, and um, great experience.
Yeah.
It brought us, that was one of the best memories for those that attended. And it wasn't just a drama team; it was a mixed group.
Mm.
But um, we came back and actually put on a play for the school on our experience.
Oh,
So
really? That's
yeah,
neat.
yeah. So it was pretty good to kind of highlight because the drama director did go. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, no, Mount Vernon High School. Love the place, but we did nothing like that. Not even close. Um, yeah, no.
But I guess those would have been similar to your experiences with sports and things. I guess
Mm.
those would have been, reflecting back on it now, would have been those defining moments, where I had leadership potential, didn't realize it,
Right.
but through those, I'm gonna challenge this, I'm teaching this person this, I'm doing these different things where it's like it helped to foster. And if those that did catch episode 1, where I talked about my write-up from my kindergarten teacher that says Larry is a natural leader. Hey, if you missed it, I'm not lying. If you missed it, go back to episode 1 and check it out. I have evidence.
Man, you still have that?
Yeah, hold on, let me get it. Oh, I can show the crowd
It's
again.
framed, isn't it? It's framed, huh?
You're right. You know what? I should frame it. Let me back it up. So there is text. It's
I
very
can't
hard
see
to
it.
see. There we
Ah,
go.
there we go.
So if you could read it, that first line is
Natural
natural.
leader. Nice.
All right. So
Look at that. All right, we
again,
believe it.
let me shout out to Alma Vincent, my kindergarten teacher at the time. But it's like those instances, when you think
Yeah.
about those defining moments, and even though, like you might say, hey, I was faking it until I made it, but still, it was those maybe those seeds, planting
Yeah,
those
I mean,
seeds.
I keep thinking back, and I think my coaches were pretty interesting, pretty good examples of leaders as well. Good and bad examples. So my soccer coach is more an authoritative like leader. He's just like a lot of like, yelling and pushing and rules. Then I've had like other coaches who are like the quiet professionals, level-headed, level, emotion, um, and really kind of motivated you softly and like
Mm.
I don't know how to explain it, but that's an interesting type of leader because it's like that leader's not loud or overly expressive, but like he's a rock.
Yeah.
Like that was like the type of leader that coach was, just a solid rock, dependable. You knew what you were getting, looked out for your best interest. But then, wrestling coach, that was a charismatic, my example of a charismatic leader. This guy was just amazing. He cared about you. Um, he would watch us, wrestle, and he'd say, "Hey, T, you may want to do this or adjust how you're taking that shot."
Mhm.
And so he was very caring and very like it took a very mentor approach to leadership. And then like a lot of times, at the end of the practice, it was like me and a couple of the kids and the coach would walk back to everybody's going home, and we'd walk to the bus station and we'd all sit there and chill and laugh, and he's always had our best interest, and always kind of guided us and mentored us and gave us advice, stuff that he's learned along the way. And so like I remember that type of leader and leadership style, and it really kind of sticks with me now because I still think about it and reflect back, and that's the kind of the leader that I want to be.
Oh, but I mean, so wannabe, and I know we're fast forwarding, but do you
Yeah.
think those you did take that with you?
I don't
When you
think
finally-
I necessarily was thinking about it, if
Mm.
that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, I was like, to me at that age, I was like, this guy's cool.
yeah, yeah,
That's how
yeah,
you kind of, this
yeah,
guy's a jerk and this guy's cool, and that's it's binary, at that age.
yeah, yeah, yeah. True, very true.
um, but like reflecting back after now being mature and understanding leadership styles and what good leadership is and what it's not. um I apply that filter to that wrestling coach. I'm like, man, he was a pretty good guy. He really cared about all of the team members, and went out of his way to make sure you're okay. Went out of his way to ensure like you practiced enough a particular move or whatever. So yeah, he really dedicated a lot of his time that he didn't necessarily have to. So I was very thankful for that. And it's kind of nice reflecting back and seeing, yeah, he
Yeah,
was a cool guy for a good reason.
yeah, that's for
Yeah.
sure. When even as you were talking, it reminded me of like a thinking about those defining moments,
Mm-hmm.
and it was something I did, and I remember like back thinking back at homeroom,
Mm-hmm.
and in high school we did have a homeroom, and I remember one day the homeroom teacher came in and he was just pissed. Must have had a bad day, bad night. He was mad. He started yelling at everybody, getting pissed, like sit down, which was totally out of character for him.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him flip out. And I finally stood up and said something to the effects of, in front of all the other students, you should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah.
You're an adult. I said, you should come in here and actually act like an adult and not carry on. Where are the freaking kids? And we're going to have more maturity than you. You
Yeah.
need to get it together. He was freaking beat red, but didn't say anything.
Yeah. Holy wow. Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
never would probably ever have done that. I was a problem child, brother. I literally was one of those kids in the class where it's just like tossing, crumbled up pieces of paper, and a teacher's not looking, and
Oh,
like it's so bad. Like I think I made a teacher cry one time.
what?
Yeah, man, I was a totally disrespectful little brat. I was just a
Wow.
jerk. Yeah. I mean, yeah, a bit, lie, cheat, steal. Yes, to all three.
Like,
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like before joining the military, I was just kind of like a jerk, like a hustler, a person who thought like, got to keep that mean face on at all times. I was like,
mm.
somebody look at you the wrong way. What are you looking at? So
Yeah.
I was kind of that kid, and I
Oh
don't know what it
wow.
is. And
Yeah, I would say I've gotten tossed out of class a couple times for little
oh, yeah.
silly stuff here and there. Not many. And lies, cheat, steal. It might have been a couple of those in there
Yeah.
too as well. There's some stuff I can't remember. I do remember this one time. Um, there was a another instance in high school, and I guess it was just speaking up. Like I was just one that's going to say something
Yeah.
all the time. And I think now that's something I still do to this day. If you're going to say we're going to have an
Speak
open
up.
forum and talk, I'm going to talk. And
Mm,
if you're going to say it's no hold bar, say what you want, I'm going to say what I want. I'm going to tell you the way it
mm,
is. Um, and plenty of times in the past, it's got me in trouble.
mm.
And I've had to ease back at times, and just fall back and go, okay, let's see how this plays out. But I remember one instance where I don't know, a bunch of us were in the classroom. I guess we're making noise. A teacher came in and he was like, everybody back here for detention at 3 o'clock. So me being responsible, I showed up. No one else did. Completely blew him off. But I'm like, I'm gonna show up. So then he comes there and he's like, all right, stand in the back of the classroom facing the wall. I'm like, okay. So then he says, get closer. Like he wanted my toes damn near touching the wall. So my
Really?
face was up
Okay.
against it. So I got closer. And then he goes out and he cuts off the lights. It wasn't dark, but he cut off the lights. So I'm
Uh-huh.
standing there for a minute. And then I said, I'm not doing this BS. And I walk out. He said, where you going? I said, if you were going to say, give me homework, whatever, something like that, hell, even push ups, I'd have been fine with that. But to sit there and tell me to do that and you're going to cut off the lights, I'm out of here. And I left. I'm like, I'm not doing that. Like,
Wow.
you need to do something a little bit more responsible than
Mm.
that. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. And I left.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, you can have that.
Damn. Yeah. No, I had no experiences like that. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess there's different aspects now that we look back on it,
Hmm.
between, and with your examples of sports, and there's little things that could have been planted.
Yeah.
And for both of us not realizing, because you look back and you're saying, hey, you had some leadership potential there. You were natural. And I'm like, well, I never thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Outside of Alma Vincent, give me a note. Like I don't remember, I didn't look at it that way. I would have never said, I'm taking, actually consciously thinking of it. And I don't think many of us at that age are,
No.
unless you maybe in sports, if you're thinking about team captain, for those that thought about it, oh, I'm putting it on my record because I want to go to the next level and be that person. So now they are consciously thinking of it.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and maybe I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but like, so I was a regional commander of admissions for West Point. So I
Mhm.
was basically an admissions officer for the Northeast region for 3 years, and obviously West Point looks for leadership potential in their applicants. So whether it's student athlete or a leader in student government or in a classroom. And there are, reflecting back, there's a lot of natural born leadership that I saw come across my desk as far as applicants. There are people that are genuinely love being a class president or vice president.
Oh yeah.
There
Yeah.
are people that are genuinely love being a team captain, or even if not even a team captain, like volunteering to lead.
Yeah.
And so I see it, and what's really cool is that then if you have that natural ability, and then you're surrounded in a environment where that's encouraged, so like maybe a school, so maybe like the teacher saw something in you and it's like, okay, you'll make a great, I don't know, what's that, like a uh, playground cop. I don't know. You said you
Yeah, yeah.
that's the hot,
Conflict manager, yeah.
yeah, and I
Playground
think we had hallway monitors. We had people walking the hallway like, where are you out? You're supposed to be in class. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Um, but like, so I think it's interesting. Like, so teachers, coaches, even parents, I think they see that and then they encourage that. They fuel that and they put you in better positions. And so I wonder, like, I think a lot of people may have saw the potential in you, and they gave you the opportunity or pushed you in a certain way to kind of use that natural skill that you have and use it in a position that's going to be beneficial to you and obviously to whatever position that you're holding, because you're going to do well.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Okay, sorry, it was a little bit of a tangent, but like I'm
No,
reflecting
no, but
back.
you're to say that someone's seeing potential in you. I remember when I was a junior in high school, my mother put West Point papers on the like stairs to my room because I was upstairs in like an attic room.
Yeah.
And I saw it and I thought, going into the military means war, you could die. I'm not trying to do it. And I could have gone in because she knew someone that was in Vietnam with the commandant. All I had to do was apply.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how it worked out, but I would have had a good shot at getting in. And I was like, no, I'm not. That's crazy. Let me throw that away. And then the very next year, I joined the military anyway and
Wow.
enlisted in the army.
Yeah,
So I could have went to college, came out an officer,
yeah.
and it said I just did it the very next year. Just said, and maybe that was at the time not really thinking about it, but then maybe kind of owning up to my situation and maybe taking a leadership approach to my life where I said, you know what? I don't want my mother's paid for my junior high and my high school. I do not want her to then try to support me in college as well. I had a little sister.
Ah,
I don't want to do that. She was actually going to give me her car and get another one. I said, no, no, it's no reason for you to then go into payments. Keep your car. I'll figure it out. And I joined and I left.
man, well, your mom was trying not to pay for college. That's exactly why she said West Point. Here you go.
Yeah, yeah. And I just was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then ended up
Wow.
leaving anyway. And really, just when I made the decision, it was just like, I'm doing this.
Yeah,
Like, it
yeah.
wasn't, I didn't consult with anybody. I took the test. Um, at the time, friends, girlfriend, all it didn't matter because I had to take care of myself. And I was like, and I'm not staying here. So I was like, it's a done deal, signed up, and that was it.
Brother. So there's a little rebel in you, I guess.
I guess so, man. I guess so. And and with that, we did touch on a little bit of the military.
Yeah.
And so in our next episode, will we be talking about leadership in the military and
Mm.
our journey from both of our journeys of basic training throughout our time there and definitely hitting on instances of leadership there. So I hope that everyone enjoyed today's episode, got some nuggets, and we would definitely want to hear from you. So please drop some comments. See my finger? Yeah, down below of your earliest memories of leadership and maybe how they may have influenced you as you moved into adulthood. Um, and that's it. What about from you, T? Anything?
I'm just looking forward to the next episode. I mean, that's kind of where I bloomed. I'm like, oh, military.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
found my space, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's kind of where leadership really started for me. So it was, as soon as I got in the military. So
All
yeah,
right.
looking forward to it.
All right. So just so you do not miss our next conversation, definitely like and subscribe, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks, Larry.